Life in the Saxon period was tough for everyone. There was famine, disease, and the constant threat of your neighbours, even for the rich and powerful.
And it was even tougher for those at the very bottom of society who had to scratch a living from the land and served at the beck and call of their local lord. Oh, stretch some out.
The Anglo-Saxon period in England spanned 6 centuries, beginning with the Roman withdrawal from Britain in 410 and ending with William the Conqueror's victory at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. It was an era that used to be known as the Dark Ages due to the lack of written sources and remaining physical traces, but more evidence is slowly coming to light.
At first, Germanic-speaking tribes like the Angles, Saxons, Jutes and Frisians began to arrive from the continent in small groups, but they eventually formed warlike kingdoms like East Anglia, Kent, Wessex and Mercia, pushing the native Britons further west. This violent phase of history was also a time of competing religions and cultures, new languages and a new hierarchical system that was introduced by the invaders.
In this video, we join the Swords of Pender reenactment group, volunteers who bring the 7th century to life through painstaking research and experimental archaeology to test our early medieval metal.
We'll explore how your place in society would determine how you lived.
Oh, you don't mind if I have a go, do you?
By all means.
And how you died.
Oh, my helmet's coming off. I think that's me dead.
And find out if this really was one of the harshest periods in history. So the question is, could you survive as an Anglo-Saxon warrior?
At the very top of Saxon society, you'd have the king and his ealdormen. These were the nobles who formed the king's inner circle. On the next rung down, you'd have the thanes, a substantial number of them, and these were wealthy landowners who often owed military service to the king.
Further down the ladder, churls made up the vast majority of the population. The word originally just meant man, but later came to denote the lowest class of free-born person. And then you had the thralls. These were the slaves who could be bought and sold as property. Right, where are we training then?
Training?
Yeah.
You don't need any training, mate. You'll be fine in the battle. You're going to go make a start on dinner. Go on, off you go.
Well, I suppose even the greatest warriors can't fight on an empty stomach. Most Anglo-Saxons in the 7th century lived in small rural villages. The poor in wattle and daub homes of 1 or 2 rooms, with a central hearth for cooking and warmth. A large proportion of life for your average churl consisted of producing food for the community. Most were farmers who lived off the land, growing wheat, barley and oats for making bread and porridge.
The Anglo-Saxon diet was quite different to what we eat today. What was eaten was tied to seasons, climate, and realistically whatever could be effectively preserved.
Time to find out exactly what was on the menu in the early 600s, with Ali, the camp's head chef.
By this point in time, most of the Anglo-Saxons, they're pretty avid farmers, right? Skilled agricultural labourers.
Yes, definitely. You would have found that in most villages that people would own varying sizes of land, so anything from a very small holding to maybe a larger crop growing field. They would be growing most of the root vegetables required to go into a stew.
Okay.
So you would have carrots. Obviously the carrots weren't orange as we know them, they were actually purple.
Oh, really?
And
Why is that?
occasionally you got white carrots because that's how they grow naturally. They would have been certainly a very strange thing to put on your plate in
Yes.
today's time.
Definitely.
They would grow root vegetables such as turnips, parsnips, didn't have potatoes.
And I have read that most of the Anglo-Saxon population were actually vegetarians. Is that true? To what extent is that true?
It's not necessarily vegetarians by choice as we know it today. It would be vegetarian by almost by force, because to have meat would have been a luxury.
So they're not necessarily having all this meat and stews constantly,
A stew
only
would,
for special occasions maybe.
a stew would be on the go all the time.
Oh, okay.
You would add to it daily. So you'd add a few more vegetables. That pot of stew would almost be a never-ending pot of stew,
Right, okay.
because you would just continuously add to it and replenish it. So the actual stock from that stew
Yeah.
would get richer and richer with all
Wow.
the flavours of the vegetables. Then the meat would go into the stew,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be a regular thing.
Yeah.
This would be an as and when, and it would be an almost special treat. It would probably feel like what we feel like at Christmas.
Yeah. And talk to me a bit about the hygiene. So are we eating like hunter-gatherers, or do we have some utensils? I can see some spoons and things.
We have no evidence at the moment of them using things like forks.
Okay.
But they would have, most people would have had what they called an eating knife. And that would have been a short knife, very similar to this,
Okay.
which basically would have been used to prepare the vegetables. They would certainly cut their meat or whatever they were eating. They would stab it
Stab it. Okay.
and eat it.
Yeah.
So basically,
Whatever works.
stab it, it acts like a fork.
Yeah.
They did have spoons. We have a variety of different wooden spoons that have been carved from basically a lump of wood. They didn't necessarily have much of a bowl to them, but it would allow them to eat the
their
liquid
stews, yeah.
from the stews.
Can't eat a stew with this thing, can you? So-
No.
Unsurprisingly, the wealthy enjoyed a better standard of living, residing in spacious timber halls and spending their time hunting. This meant they could treat themselves to game like venison and wild boar, but it was also an opportunity to sharpen their martial skills. Thanes were expected to fight for their king when called upon, and expected to fight well. I'd better get some practice.
I'm looking like a high status warrior. I'm not feeling like one yet because I've not undergone any training, but can we
Right.
talk through a little bit about what you're wearing?
Yeah,
What,
of course we can.
What are the weapons that you've got here?
Certainly, so main weapon obviously I carry here is my spear, weapon of war, also a good weapon for hunting as well.
Yep.
Most of these were around about 7 foot in length.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 to 8 foot for a single spear.
And even the high status warriors, they're
Yeah,
carrying spears
absolutely.
as well.
This is now thought to be one of the marks of a freeman.
Okay.
You wouldn't let a thrall or a slave loose with one of these.
Okay, so Luke's
It
not
wouldn't-
getting his
wouldn't-
hands on
he's
a
not
spear.
getting he's not getting one of these. No.
What's next? What's the next weapon for a high status warrior?
So the next weapon for a high status warrior would be this.
Nice.
Yeah. So the sword is very much a mark of a high status warrior. Only owned by the wealthy or the elite warriors.
And is it true that these would often be passed down through families?
Possibly,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah. These would be treasured by, passed down from father to son. Some of them may even be named as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they would have almost had a symbolic significance
absolutely,
as well.
yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
And
So
quite expensive, I imagine, at the time.
they were. Something like this in modern day terms back then would have been a high-end sports car, so your Ferraris, that kind of thing.
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay. And if the sword, let's say you lose your sword in battle, your weapon of last resort is here.
If you lose your sword in battle and you don't have a spear, yeah, you're left with this.
This is called the Sayax.
It's called
Yes,
a
it is.
Sayax.
Is that related to the name Saxons?
Possibly. It's possibly where the Saxons get their name from. So Sayax meaning knife in Old English. So Saxon people of the knife.
I
Is
see.
what the historians seem to believe.
And Jim, let's talk about the armour. I have to say, your helmets are looking quite intimidating. I imagine these are quite high status helmets.
Yeah,
as
very
well.
very high status helmets indeed. I mean, my spectacle helmet denotes the fact on the battlefield that I am a high status warrior. You know, quite as simple as that. Matched with a chainmail, sword again. You know, so, and then obviously the sigils upon my shield. The sword is King Pender's sword. We have what we call the shield dancer, and this is my personal sigil, the bear claw.
And the shield is obviously crucial to Saxon battle tactics, isn't
Absolutely.
it? The shield wall is kind of what we think of when we think
Absolutely.
of Saxons.
Yeah. It was primarily defensive, really. Although you could advance in a shield wall. But yeah, if you're stood on top of a hill, or and you're backed by woodlands, then shield walls were a very effective defensive formation. If it's done properly, it's tough to break through.
And it lasted as a tactic for quite a long time, didn't
it
it?
Did indeed, yeah,
Mhm.
many years.
Even now, if you look at modern day policing, if
Yep.
there's a riot going on,
Yep.
they'll almost do exactly the same thing.
And violence was part of Saxon society even off the battlefield, as shown by some of the strange laws that governed it.
Let's say I killed
Yep.
a rival, someone that I knew.
Yep.
I can actually pay their
Yes.
family, and they wouldn't be allowed then to take revenge on me.
No, absolutely. So you'd pay what they call a weregild. So a weregild is a man price. So from one of the sources, a thrall would be 60 shillings. A chael or a free man would be 200 for the landed thane. So he actually has a certain amount of land that he'll farm and he'll own, usually by the king's grace. If you killed him, his weregild, I believe, would be 1,200 shillings.
Okay, so that would be an expensive
It
mistake.
would be a very expensive
An absolute
thing to
king's
do.
ransom.
Well,
So, yeah.
I mean, I'm decked out as a thane right now.
You are indeed.
I think I better try and live up to the name. Is there any chance you can show me a couple of the moves that we might do?
Absolutely.
I think we could
yeah.
take you for a few moves, yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
we
let's
can
go
do
for
that,
it.
no problem. Yeah.
Okay, Rick.
Okay, Lou.
Here for my combat training.
Yeah.
I'm stood across from a formidable-looking Saxon warrior. Not
Oh,
sure
yeah.
what I've got myself
This
in
is
for here.
Oscar Crofty, one of our best fighters we have in the group.
Okay. What's
so-
the first basic tenets of training
So
here?
the first basic tenets of training, you will need a weapon in your hand.
I can do that.
Yeah. So what we do, we have 6 cuts that we're aiming for. Okay. So we have one to the shoulder here, one to the shoulder here. We have a thrust that comes into the side here, and one that comes here, then drawn back. Then it'll be a cut to the legs, and then a cut to the legs there.
Okie doke.
Okay.
So I'm going to be defending against
You will
these.
be defending with these. You can parry with the blade, or you can use your shield.
Okay. Let's give it a go. I think I'll use the shield to start with.
Yep, that's probably easier to do.
Okay. And now I come back in with the same.
Yep, you come back with exactly the same on him. Yep.
I might not have looked like Uhtred of Bebbanburg, but at least it was a start.
Great. Okay.
You're getting the hang of this, Louis. We'll have you in the shield wall
Oh,
soon.
it's already tiring. It's
Yeah,
already
it's very
tiring.
tiring, yes.
And do we know Saxon warriors of high status, they'd be spending a lot of time training?
I would imagine they would have done, yes, to maintain their skills. Obviously, you're not born knowing how to use a sword. It does take a lot of time to learn how to use it properly.
After a relatively relaxed start to my training as a Saxon warrior, things were about to escalate quickly.
Try and get a shot in on him, Louis.
Am I trying to come in as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I didn't
Otherwise, he'll
realise.
just kill you.
Oh, my helmet's coming off. I'm not tightly strapped enough.
Oh,
I think that's me dead.
very possibly.
Fair play.
In spite of Louis's lacklustre attempts to get into fighting shape, the Saxon period wasn't all about bloodthirsty violence. Whilst the period is commonly referred to as the Dark Ages, Anglo-Saxon England was actually a time of vibrant and creative activity. There are few written records that give us insight into the daily lives of these people, but Saxon jewellery exists in relative abundance, and their impeccable craft skills help to illuminate their artistic and social priorities.
The Anglo-Saxons, to put it mildly, were very, very skilled craft workers. They worked with all kinds of materials, from textiles to metal, ivory, glass and even paper. But above all else, they were known for this stuff here, jewellery. Their jewellers and goldsmiths were renowned for their impeccable skill.
Where's my ring?
When you think of the Anglo-Saxons, you tend to think of the finds at Sutton Hoo and this helmet in particular, but also the incredibly intricate design of all the jewellery that was found. Just tell me how and why the Anglo-Saxons became so skilled at this particular craft.
Well, the truth is we don't actually know how they became that skilled, but we can take some ideas. So, for example, underneath all of this embellishment, this is essentially a late Roman helmet. The Anglo-Saxons and Jutes, plus the Frisians and Franks, certainly in the 5th century and before, served as federati or mercenaries in the Roman auxiliary armies.
Right, of course.
So we know they had that influence. But there are influences in these designs that come from all over what is now Germany and the Sweden, Denmark, etc. For example, if you look at this helmet on the end here, this one is Valsgard 8, and it's found in a grave in Sweden.
That's incredible, the design on this, it's so intricate.
Yeah, and again, if you look at this one here, this is Vendel 1. Again, another similar design. Now, if you look back at the Sutton Hoo, you will see that there are extreme similarities. In fact, there are some images that are almost exactly the same. So we know there were trade links between those tribes in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and those who had come to Britain by that time.
Because of the designs looking so similar,
And just to show you how these are all made, because it's quite intricate, you might think this is all one piece, but actually each of these is what's called a press bleck. So it's an individual little brass plaque, and they basically are made with a former, and you hammer it out, and then each one is being attached and then kept in place by these bands.
And something like this, and I can see some of the sort of jewellery you have here, this was to indicate your status within your kingdom or within your local...
Yeah, whether it was like a tribe or you know, on a bigger status as a kingdom or whatever. So, you know, at the bottom of the rung of the ladder, for example, you know, your common person may have had something like this to secure their cloak. These are all cloak pins, by the way, here. Which is very, very common a find in graves. So simple iron thing like this. There's also different styles. So for example, earlier on in the 6th century, from the late Roman period, you get what was crossbow fibula and then becomes cruciform fibula.
Right.
But if you have a look at the intricacies on that, you can see little faces and all sorts of gripping beasts and what have you.
And this would just simply be to, I guess, you know, if you're wearing a cloak, it's quite important.
Or a coat even for ladies, they would have them securing that.
Look at that, beautiful.
And then by the 7th century, which is our period of King Pender, you tend to get more of this kind of Kentish-inspired fashion, where you come to round disc brooches, and they would often have precious jewels in there, so things like, you would even have garnets from India. We have carnelian beads that come from Afghanistan. We have ivory that comes from Ethiopia.
Wow.
So there's all sorts of different precious materials coming from all over the world. It's not as closed off as you think.
No, there's clearly trade networks.
There's definitely the Silk Road is in operation still. Those channels are still open. Because we definitely see that.
While trade was still certainly open, the withdrawal of the Romans from Britain did have an effect that can be seen today in the archaeology.
The Anglo-Saxons didn't tend to want to go and live in the towns and the cities left over by the Romans. They pretty much shunned them. They didn't want to go near them, these strange stone buildings, these villas and things, you know. They were more interested in farming and having small farms, and the potter's wheel disappears. In large industries that the Romans had, like tile making, just vanished. And the main reason for this really is because the Roman legions have left Britain. There's no more supply of Roman coins to Britain, and you know it's ripe for the Anglo-Saxons to come. Now, whether that was an invasion, a migration, whatever, is hotly debated to this day. Obviously, language completely changed, really. You know, hence why we're speaking English now and not speaking Latin, Welsh or Latin. You know, so we know there was this huge cultural change. Graves themselves, the fact that we find grave finds at all shows that there was a huge cultural change, because the Romano Britons have been Christianised and they didn't bury anyone with grave goods. Yeah, we often see things like dice in graves, you know, so we know gambling was going on.
Right, yes.
You know, we also find things that we know they would groom themselves, so we often get like these little sets. So here you've got your toothpick and you get the old nose hairs out.
Oh yeah.
There you go, got one. And best of all, you got your ear spoons that you can get in there.
Oh, great, okay. I don't think I'll be using that after
you.
Oh, that's great. And Ben, you've got some glassware in front of you, and I didn't realise Anglo-Saxons would have been using this stuff.
Well, I mean, as you just said, it's a common misconception, obviously carried on, especially with the Vikings, that all drinking ware was used with horns and things like that. But what we can see is, yes, though horns were used, obviously, here's a perfect example.
Right, okay.
We do see that glass is still being used. I mean, as we can see from this example here of a palm cup, if you'd like to.
Yes.
Okay. You can see how it's not perfect. You can see bubbles, you can see
dents.
Dents, exactly. It's not perfect. Whereas if we look to something, because I would say that's middle status.
Yeah.
I mean, because glass is reforged over and over and over again because the Romans have gone, and glass goes from due to the empire bringing things in, that ends. And though imports are still going on through trade networks, you see glass beads, which are a lot smaller, but glass becomes more of a higher status thing, especially clear or coloured glass.
Okay.
So blue is one of the highest status glasses. So if you see this with the beautiful workings.
Oh right, yeah. Can I pick that up?
Yeah, of course. To get that colour and to get it that clear, it's a craft.
The rich might have been able to afford better bling, but the risks from disease and infection remained a great leveller across Saxon society. Average life expectancy was around 40, with child mortality rates particularly high. But despite their lack of real scientific knowledge, many medical treatises were produced during the period, some of which still survive.
If you were ill or wounded, which is quite likely if you spend your life fighting, there were medical practitioners of a sort you could go and visit. And I've got myself an appointment. Hello, Steph.
Hello.
I've heard this is the medical tent, and I'm looking for the best treatment that the 7th century can offer, because I've got cuts, bruises, broken bones, all sorts. What can you treat me for?
All right, well, to start off here, if you were suffering from a nosebleed, we'd have the humble nettle. So from here, have it dried, ground up and made into a powder that could be used as a snuff to be sort of like stuffed up the nose.
This is the one you're making now?
So yes, this is here. So it's all very, very, you can feel it, it's very fine powder.
Oh right, so that's ground up nettle, interesting.
So that could be added to a tea as well, but yeah, that was the nosebleed cure. So hanging behind you we have an onion. The humble onion was seen, if you hung it in your doorway, it was supposed to absorb any illness from coming into your home as well. Right. So in kind of, in later period of folklore, you may have heard if you are feeling ill to cut an onion in half, leave it on a bedside table, it turn black. It's this idea that an onion will absorb kind of negativity and illness.
Well, if only it was that easy.
Indeed.
I suppose, yeah. And if I have let's say I have a broken bone. I've been training with the guys, you know, I feel like I fractured something.
Very good. Well, if it was in training and you've hurt yourself, then what we'll probably do is bind it with a splint, probably made of elm. Now, of all of the thousands of remedies in Anglo-Saxon England, there are only about 6 listed for broken bones. It's a very rare thing, and it was mainly used by what they think they did with livestock. So if it was a sheep or a cow, you'd bind the bone. If you look at what they're doing elsewhere around the same time period in the kind of Arabic countries, they're a bit more ahead, and they were using egg white with flour and lime to make a plaster cast. But we would just splint it.
Okay.
If you had broken your arm in a fist fight with a drunken brawl, you would be owed compensation. So the person who broke your arm, if it was the top of your arm, it would be 15 shillings. If it was both arms, it's 15 shillings per arm. If it was your thigh, it would be 30 shillings, and your lower leg would be 30 shillings. So depending on what was broken in the fight, you would then be owed money by your assailant.
So I can put an injury claim in?
You could indeed.
What about, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, maybe I've got a bit of a fever, a bit of a cold.
So a fever, we have got some wormwood here. So wormwood with a tonic made of this. So it's kind of a bit like a weed you'd find now. It's also what gives absinthe its lovely taste.
Oh, yeah,
so
great taste.
wormwood, a tonic of that would be help to kind of relieve a fever and bring it down. But I do have a few other things here. So if you are feeling, I don't know, say you're a bit stressed out, or you've got children and you need them to go to sleep, we would do something like chamomile. So chamomile flowers in goat's milk and a bit of honey would be given as a kind of a soothing remedy sleep. So I have got a little bit of chamomile in some there.
Oh,
so
nice. Great. Okay, let's give it a go.
Nice and relaxing.
This is gonna cure me of stress.
Yeah, it's a nice relaxing one.
Brilliant. Lovely. Are there any particularly weird or unpleasant remedies that we're using?
Quite a few. So the Leechcraft book written by the Bede, he wrote 3 texts. One was very much, as I talked about, the different forms of curing. The worst one was the very supernatural things, and that's where the creepier and more gross ones. And my favourite, most disgusting one is the cure for spider bite. And that was a raw egg with some ale, mixed with some lovely sheep's dung that had to be fresh, and then that would be given to drink, and that would be a good cure for the poisons of a spider bite.
Wow, so ale, eggs and sheep dung.
Yeah.
And people were really drinking that?
Yeah, the idea was that you'd give it to someone but not tell them that's what they were drinking, so they had to drink it, and yeah.
Okay.
Cure for the poison of a spider bite.
I'm feeling much better now, having come in with all these injuries and feeling ill, feeling great. I'm ready to get back to fighting, which is what we do best, right?
Very much.
Enough with the blood and gore. Life in the 600s has its fun side as well. When they weren't busy fighting, crafting and getting their arms broken, members of Anglo-Saxon tribes would come together and enjoy a range of leisure activities, from hunting, horse riding, to feasting and playing musical instruments. And I think I can hear the sweet sound of music already.
Music was an everyday feature of life in Anglo-Saxon England. Singing was a common form of after-dinner entertainment, according to Bede, and epic poems such as Beowulf and Judith were thought to have been performed to a musical accompaniment.
Right, Gary, I've cooked, I've crafted. I think it's about time I relax and listen to some music. And I must say, I'm amazed at the variety of instruments you have here. Can you tell me a bit about what you have in front of you?
Okay, so probably the most important instrument is the Anglo-Saxon lyre. Probably the most well-known one is the Sutton Hoo lyre. This is a reconstruction of the lyre found at Sutton Hoo. Wow. It's very, very similar to the one currently in the British Museum. It was the first one found. It was actually put together in the wrong way at first. Yeah. And then later, after the discovery of other lyres, reimagined to more accuracy.
And how would you be playing this?
There are a couple of methods. Basically, there are images from the sort of late Saxon period, drawings and paintings of people playing the lyres. So there are images of people holding the lyre like this and plucking chords, or what's called block and strum, which is where you are dropping out or deadening the notes that you don't want heard.
Got it.
So you'll get a lot of images of people holding lyres like this.
Okay, interesting. So you see these in a lot of illustrations. What about some of the other stuff you have here? What's that behind you? That looks like a
This here.
bit of a harp.
This is a sort of, it's more of a late Saxon harp. The problem with these early lyres is that they're very limited, very basic instruments. So what is the most important stringed instrument of its time?
Yeah.
You're limited to 6 notes. In order to make the instrument more versatile and add more notes, change the shape. You know, so you start to see this shape of harp arrive in the late Saxon period. There's very little distinction between the two at the time, but these days I think the distinction is a lyre. The strings are parallel to the soundboard, much like a guitar.
Got it.
Whereas on the harp, the strings are perpendicular, moving away from the soundboard.
Got it. And does that change the sound? And
Not really, but I mean you've got more notes for a start, but you still can't note them. It's only when you sort of start to get towards the end of the Saxon period into the beginning of the Middle Ages that things like rebecs, which is like an early fiddle, lutes and other stringed instruments that could be noted and fretted start to appear.
are these, would you say, the most common instruments we see from the Anglo-Saxon period?
You see images, normally the chap playing the lyre or the harp is central to the image, surrounded by people playing things like shawms, which are flutes and drums, and rebecs, various other instruments.
Speaking of drums, you've got one right there.
Yep.
The sound, I'm guessing, sounds similar to almost like a war drum.
So yeah, it's a goat skin. You can see the back of the animal across there, stretched over a wooden frame. Every part is made from leather or skin or hide, and they were used to create a quite a deep sound. But I mean, drums as an accompaniment to music, but drums had been used for years for communication, for signalling. Yeah. Much in the same way that the horn would be used to signal or to call.
Feeling in the Saxon spirit, I thought I'd give the horn a go.
So Gary, I mean, if this was used for signalling, especially across boats, it would have had to make a pretty significant noise. Now, you don't mind if I have a go, do you?
By all means.
So you've said I just need to sort of, from the side of the mouth, as if playing
sort of
a
trumpet.
A trumpet, okay, let me give it a go. I've never played a trumpet before.
The war horn.
Oh God, what have I done?
We march of Northumbria! King Oswald must die, and his kingdom must fall to me. Will you join me? Yeah! Will you join me? Yeah! Then so it be made. We march of Northumbria. Follow me to death and glory! From the hall!
With the battle over, it was time to celebrate our crushing victory and mourn the fallen. Saxon funerals could take various forms, particularly during the 7th century when the dominant religion of paganism gradually gave way to new Christian beliefs.
Okay, Steph, well, we've come back from the battle. I think we won today, but there's sad news, isn't there? Because one of our warriors has died.
He has it indeed.
And Nathan here, who is our deceased warrior, he's about to be sent to the afterlife, isn't he? And he's got all of these kind of worldly goods around him. What have we got here? What are we sending him off with?
So we've got some items that we think were probably buried with him that were either in his daily life or things that his family and friends would have thought he would need in the afterlife. We have his mail here, so we need to know that in the afterlife he will be protected, he'll be ready for battle again. So we have a lot of his armour. So we have his mail, we have his shield, we have his seax, spear, of course, his sword, and his helmet in the corner there as well. So we need to make sure he is well protected. But again, in the afterlife, it's not all about battle, it's a joyous place. So you'd want to be kind of fun and frolicking. You would have his lyre as well, so play music. But also for lots of feasting and drinking. So we've got the drinking horns, bowls and cups, and we know these were found in several burials as well. And he was not the richest of fellows, but he wasn't the poorest, so he does have some of his treasure as well. So we've got his kind of wallet and some coins. And also we know that he would want to stay fairly well groomed, so we've got things like his bone and wooden combs as well, so he can groom himself and look after himself in the next journey. On the tray here we also have a horse tooth. Now sometimes in the burials they would have had an entire horse. It could have been the horse head or just the tooth, as a symbol of you'll go with your companion to the next journey, the final journey with man and horse together.
And I believe to give our fallen warrior a proper send-off, we're going to have some mead now, aren't we?
Yes.
We're going to have a feast of our own, which I'm really looking forward to. Let's go do that.
Our time as Anglo-Saxon warriors wouldn't be complete without drinking mead from a cow's horn. At a ritual gathering called a simbel, warriors would make toasts to the gods, take oaths to their leaders, and engage in formulaic boasting. An easy enough task for Louis.
And now, as is customary, my comrades in arms, we shall make toasts and boasts. Bring forth the mead horn. I toast to Woden, the one-eyed All-Father. To Woden!
To Woden!
As King Pender's champion, I boast that I will take the head from King Oswald himself.
Hooray!
Yes.
Thank you. I boast that the History Hit YouTube channel will definitely get to 1 million subscribers.
Hooray!
Sorry.
Of course, not everyone was worthy of being included in the festivities. And as Luke was about to find out, thralls would occasionally be sacrificed alongside high-status warriors to serve them in the afterlife.
No, please, no!